Okay, so now I'm breaking the place, so that's okay. Hi, guys. Good afternoon, morning. It feels like morning to me. Good afternoon. How are you doing? Welcome to Adventures in Voice Acting. We're going to have a little fun today. Mostly what this is about is I teach voice acting workshops all over the country, and mostly in Los Angeles. And these are full-day workshops, and you got to pay a lot of money to be in them. But what I'm going to do here today is kind of a little mini version of that, and kind of tell you, if those of you who are kind of interested or wonder what it took to be a voice actor, the kind of things that you would need to know. And so show you a couple things. I'm going to give you a couple of tips, and then I have some scripts up here, and I'm going to bring some folks up, and you're going to get a chance to voice act in front of everybody. So okay, does that sound fun?
Yeah.
There you go, thank you. 10 points to the TARDIS. Okay. All right, so let's get going here. My name is Tony Oliver. I have been a voice actor for 25 or more years. I started out in a little show called Robotech many moons ago, and I went on to do a lot of different things, including more recently Gadgar, Lupin the Third, Naruto, Bleach, and I direct a lot. Mostly I direct these days, so I directed K-On! The movie, which is screening here this weekend, and I just finished a show that I can't quite say the title of yet. Last year was Fate Zero, if those of you got to see that. And, it's my favorite thing I've ever worked on. In fact, I have Fate Zero scripts here today. And Nura, Rise of the Yokai Clan, and Magi, the Labyrinth of Magic. So those are the ones I just finished up. Thank you for Magi, that's good. Nobody knows Nura, but everyone knows Magi, so that's good. I want to give a shout out to partners in this, in Adventures in Voice Acting. It's Bang Zoom Studios. It's one of the premier dubbing studios in Los Angeles. There's 2 or 3 of them. And that's where I do most of my work, and they're behind Adventures in Voice Acting, so a little shout out to Bang Zoom. So let's talk about what you need to learn. If you want to be a voice actor, there's, people say, I used to get this question a lot. So I do funny voices. Can I be a voice actor? Well, maybe, maybe not. But voice acting is a lot more than just funny voices. In fact, in the Los Angeles area, if I need something that's really kind of quirky and funny, there's about 4 people I can call, and they can cover all. And 4 people cover all of it. D. Bradley Baker, Frank Welker, Tom Kinney, and there's a couple more. Rob Paulson, people like that. They pretty much cover it all. What we have trouble doing is finding people who can act. And can do normal kind of stuff, especially when you're talking about anime. Because yes, the American cartoons, it's getting better, but American cartoons tend to be all about the weird little voices. They're very shallow and what have you. And unfortunately, some of that's changing. I mean, even shows like Archer has got a lot more depth than, I know, it's weird and sick, but in terms of acting, there's a lot more depth to them than they used to have and that stuff. So the biggest thing that you need to be before you become a voice actor is you need to be an actor. Okay, and you don't need to go to Los Angeles or New York to do that. You can do that right here. You can do that pretty much anywhere in the country. And what acting is about realistically conveying emotion. The biggest mistake that young actors make is they think it's all in the words. And really the words have very little to do with what you're saying. It's the emotion you put behind the words. If you listen to some of your favorite voice actors, and I'm going to point out like Crispin Freeman, or Yuri Lowenthal, if you listen to them technically, their voices are pretty normal, and and pretty much they're pretty monotone in which they read, but you get all of this emotion out of it. That's because they're doing all this internal acting. And so that's what you need to do. When you're doing acting on a stage or screen, you need to use your face and your body as well. But for voice acting, it's all done with the voice. And what your job is to convey emotion. And the reason is because emotion is what you come back for. Think about it. When you're watching your favorite anime or reading your favorite manga or your favorite TV show or book, what keeps you coming back over and over and over again? It's because you get emotionally invested in the characters. You get this emotional connection. So as an actor, what my job is to get you connected. And the way I do that is by connecting myself. So I try to feel what my character feels as much as I possibly can before I read a dialogue. And that way, when you listen to it in the context of the show, you can feel the same emotion. And that's what keeps you coming back. So acting is all about feeling, not acting. It's not about the words, it's about what the feeling is behind it. And it sounds really easy to say, and it's one of the hardest things to learn how to do. Another thing that you need to do is get accustomed to performing. When you're in the booth, yes, you're by yourself, when you're doing anime, you're by yourself in the booth with a director and a producer sometimes, and an engineer in the other room. But you're still performing. You're still performing to a rather large audience. In fact, when you're doing television and stuff like that, your audience can be in the millions, even though you're by yourself. So you got to get accustomed to performing. So one of the things, if you want to be a voice actor, be an actor first. Get involved in theater. Community theater, you don't have to go to New York, you don't have to spend $9,000 a month to take Luda Hawkins' latest course. What you need to do is just get up on a stage and start performing. A lot of you do that here with your cosplay, so you're already halfway there, okay? But part of it is to get used to getting up in front of people and performing and really being comfortable with yourself being someone else. A lot of what acting is about is learning how to get over being uncomfortable. And you don't always get over that. I mean, I've been doing this long enough that I'm not that uncomfortable when I get in front of a stage. I still do theater, by the way. But being able to be comfortable in front of a large group of people and performing, because you have to project your character. You can't be really small. You've got to be big, even in the booth. Take acting classes. Local college is fine. Local, if you're in the university and you're taking another major, grab a one-unit acting class somewhere. Go do a show at the community college or community theater or church theater. Every city has Jewish community centers, and all those Jewish community centers have performing companies. Most of them do. So, so take classes, take acting classes at your local college. If you're going to take voice acting workshops, of course, come take mine. But take from a lot of different teachers, because not everything I tell you is going to work. So I have students in Los Angeles who take from me, they take from Crispin Freeman, they take from Richard Horvitz, they take from a lot of different people, and they glean what's best from all of those folks. When you're taking acting classes for the stage and that sort of thing, do the same thing. No one method is going to work for everybody. So you got to find out what works for you. And so you want to go from various teachers. And of course, take my workshops. Too soon. All right. Take this particular aspect of career very seriously. This is where most young voice actors falter. I see a lot of people come to Los Angeles and get in the game, and they get a couple or 3 roles, but they've never really taken the acting part seriously. And after the 2 or 3 roles, then somebody hands them a more complex role and they can't handle it. And that's pretty much as far as they're going. So you want to take the aspect of acting seriously. It is a lifelong commitment. Tom Hanks still has an acting teacher after his 9 Oscars he's already got. So it's something that you really need to pay attention to if you want to act. The next part about this, because it's voice acting, is you got to figure out your voice and how your voice works. So what you need to do is learn how to use your voice effectively to convey emotion. The voice works a lot like the radio. You know how FM radio works? There's a carrier signal that your radio grabs onto, and on top of that, it carries the actual sound. Same thing, your voice is like that carrier signal, and it carries on top of it the emotion. So the better you can use your voice, and what I mean by that is the more you can project your voice, the more emotion that you can broadcast, and the better people are going to get you. I have people that are in the booth, they get new actors very quiet, and they're acting their asses off, but I can't get it because I can't hear it. So you got to be able to project your voice. You need to learn how to use it. So part of that is understanding how your voice works. And the way your voice works, it's kind of like a bagpipe. Okay, there's a big bladder of air. Laughing, but it's true. You have a big bag of air that your arm pushes down, and it blows through a reed which vibrates, and that vibration gets sent to all of the various spaces inside the tubes or the pipes, and it comes out the other side. Your voice is the same thing. Your lungs are the big bag of air. The arm that holds it down is your diaphragm, which is a muscle right here, which pushes up. It goes across your vocal cords, which vibrates. That vibration is transferred to your sinuses. That's what your sinuses are for, by the way. They're a natural amplifier. It bounces around there, and it comes out your whole face. Your mouth is there to give it some form and structure so that you can, otherwise all we're doing is, it doesn't work. Okay? Never done that before. Okay. So the big secret to using your voice is learning how to breathe properly. Okay, so here's how you breathe properly. I know you need breathing lessons, you've been doing it your whole life. But when we're in elementary school, everybody says, suck in your air and suck in your breath, and everybody kind of pulls in their stomach and puffs out their chest and does this. That's precisely the opposite of how you're supposed to breathe. The smallest part of your lungs are at the top. You want to fill up the largest parts where they're at the bottom. So you have to kind of imagine as if you have a straw and it's filling up your stomach with air. So when you breathe, instead of your chest going like this, your stomach needs to go Now, I have a nice big stomach, so you can see this, but... Can't believe I said that. So if you notice when I breathe in, my shoulders aren't moving. It's all coming down here and it's getting pushed. All your power is down here in your diaphragm. So what you need to be able to do is be able to project and fill a room with your voice without a microphone, without trying. So it takes very little effort to do this as long as I'm breathing correctly. But if I do it for too long, I'm going to lose my voice, so I'm going to keep using the microphone. It's really important that you do that. So if you want to try this, everybody stand up. Here, we'll do this interactively. Okay? Put one hand on your chest up here. Put another one right below your solar plexus, right just at the base of the center of your chest. And if you take a big breath in, the top hand should not move. The bottom hand should move out, so like this. So take a big deep breath in. Out. And then now push with this hand when you breathe out, the lower hand. In. Now really push with the lower hand. Feel how much more air you push out that way? If your bottom hand is not moving, only your top, you're breathing wrong. Okay? I'm going to show you a different way to see this. Another example. Hang on, I'm coming down. I need a volunteer. Yes. All right, it's going to be hard for you guys to see this. Some of you in the back are going to have to stand up. So you have a dress, I should have thought of that. I'll look the other way. Lay down on your back. All right, with your knees in a sit-up position. I'm moving over here, so you don't have to hide. Okay, your knees in a sit-up position. Yeah, you guys don't look. Put your hand on your stomach and take a big deep breath in. Okay, and out. Now push with your hand when you breathe in. And then out. Push with your hand. Okay, well, you've proved me wrong. So when you're in this position, go ahead and sit down. It's virtually impossible to breathe in correctly. And I used to say virtually, I used to say it was impossible because some people, when they lay on their back, they breathe with their chest like she just did. I'm sorry. But when you're laying on your back with your back flat against the ground and your knees bent in that sit-up position and you take a breath in, your natural inclination is to breathe correctly. You're going to breathe through your stomach. You watch a little baby breathe. This is how they breathe too. It's the natural way to breathe. Somehow we all learn how to do it differently once we get older. So that's a great way to fix it. And if your voice is weak, do that exercise, but put a book on your solar plexus. And it's like doing isometrics. One of the things you're going to find when you do that is that you're going to get louder, naturally. So even if you don't want to be a voice actor, it's a great way, if you have to do presentations for clients in front of, in front of your school presentations, in any way having to speak to people in public, if you can learn how to do that, it's going to make it much easier and better, and people are going to respond better to you. So even if you're not a voice actor, it's a good idea for you to learn how to do that. So breathing properly. You need to learn to place your voice, too, for maximum effect. Now, placement is kind of strange because most people talk about pitch. So when a director sometimes wants you to go younger, they say, well, you pitch up a little bit, give me a higher pitch. The problem is if you do that, and you do that just with a pitch, what you're going to get is this, which doesn't sound very good. Unless you're doing Mickey, I actually got to audition for Mickey Mouse once. I was so thrilled. I knew I wasn't going to get it, but what a thrill to be asked, you know? Yeah, I got to play Mickey for like 10 minutes. But placement is where you place your voice. It's kind of an imaginary speaker that moves up and down. And this is how we get younger and older. So for instance, if I want to go younger, instead of pushing my pitch up, which sounds unnatural, I'm going to pull the voice way up into my head. Now, I haven't changed the pitch, but I got rid of all the chest, so now I'm sounding a little younger. And if I can push it up a little younger, then give it a bit of a character, now I've got a young guy, which is how I do young people, even though I'm no longer one. All right. Same thing. If I want to get older, I'm going to drop it down to my chest, which means I'm going to make it rattle a little more, vibrate a little more in my chest. I still haven't changed my pitch, and then all I have to do is maybe add a little bit of texture or something like that, and a bit of an accent, and now I've got an old man. So that's how we do that. We just move it up and down, and it's really where you're placing. The thing to remember is where your voice needs to not be is in your throat. If you're ever doing a voice, and for whatever reason, and your throat starts to get hurt or feel strained, that's in the wrong place. Don't do that. You want to either get a little louder and push it up into your head, or get a little louder and push it down to your chest. If you work in your voice and it gets really strained, you can actually hurt your voice. And I've blown out a vocal cord before, and let me tell you, it's very, very painful. My last scene in Gungrave, when I'm screaming, Brandon! Yeah, I didn't breathe right, and I was actually in pain for a week after I did that, in serious pain. So you want to be careful not to do that, so you don't want to strain your voice. Also, you'll get a lot more endurance. When I'm doing stuff like Dynasty Warriors, and we're having to really fight and stuff, and I've got 3 or 4 hours in the booth, and I got to keep screaming like that. The only way to do it is to keep it out of my throat and to place it in a place. So, anybody here sing? Okay, those of you who sing know what I'm talking about. That's the placement. When you place your voice properly and it rings like that, you know sometimes you sing and it just comes out like sweetness. That's proper placement, okay? So, if you don't know what I'm talking about, ask them. Learn to enunciate properly. That's the big one. Because, you know, when we're talking out there in the street, you know, you and I are talking and we're going to slur our words a little bit and we're going to change the rhythms and it's going to be okay. But when you're on a microphone, especially the really sensitive microphones that we use in the studio, that slurring gets 10 times worse and it sounds bad. So you need to learn how to enunciate properly. Great exercise for that is to find something to read out loud. Pick something, a book or something, and then read it very slowly, opening your mouth very wide and pronouncing each and every letter in the word. Understand? It sounds weird, and if you start doing some of these exercises, a couple of things happen. First of all, you feel like a total ass. But it's important. You have to learn how to do this. Also, your family will think you've completely lost your mind, but you're here, so they have already. So it's important that you really learn to enunciate clearly and properly. And by enunciating, by opening your mouth, you start to round out your mouth. In America, we speak with a very flat mouth. The problem is it's really hard to do dialects and stuff like that if you're speaking with a very flat mouth. You need to speak with a round mouth, and that exercise will teach you to do that. The reason the round mouth is important is if you want to do dialects. So if I want to do a dialect is all about placing the vowel in your mouth forward and back. I talked about placing your voice up and down, but by placing where you place your vowels in your mouth, that's how you do an accent. So for instance, in Britain, everything's very forward. That won't do at all. Everything's right in the front of the mouth. It's very round and very forward in the mouth. In America, we speak like this. In Australia, they put it all in the back, which is why they sound that way. So by moving your vowel forward and backward, that's how you do dialects. Also American dialects. If you're going to do something in the Northeast, something in New York, it's very much in the front. You know, you're going to do a New Yorker. I was just there last weekend. This is how they talk. Not all of them. If you're going to do a Southern dialect of any kind, it's very relaxed and it's very much in the back of the mouth, and it's very relaxed, and they really don't spend a lot of time on the words. They put all the vowels way in the back of the mouth. Now there's 10 different Southern accents, so don't nail me on the fact that wasn't true. In Hollywood, generally, when they mean a Southern accent, they're asking for West Texas. So you want to sound like George Bush, okay? But there's a lot of different ones, and if you can do any of those, that's great. The Chicago accent is really an important one when you're dealing with regular live-action motion pictures. It's one I've never been able to nail because it's the Chicago. It's where you place the arrays is really important, and I don't quite nail that. And I know in all these other areas have different dialects. So listen around to the people that are around you and see if you can pick that up, especially if they're in your family. I come up to this, I've never been to this part of the world before, so I'm expecting everyone to go, oh yeah, don't you know? But that's not, I've only actually heard that once for real, and it was in Chicago. So go to Fargo, learn something, okay? You need to learn to project your voice. I talked about that. Projection is important. In the booth, the microphone really doesn't amplify you in the booth. It just picks up what you give it. So if you're giving it something quiet, it's going to sound quiet and dull. If you give it lots of dynamics and lots of volume, it's going to pick that up and it's going to sound very much better. So even though you think you're in the booth with a microphone and they're going to turn you up, that's not really the case. And the better stuff, if you listen, there's a distinct difference between American recording and Japanese recording. If you listen to Japanese recording, they all sound like they're on the microphone. They're all really, you can hear their mouth. They're really close to the mic and they're very quiet. Here we actually get away from the mic and speak up a little bit, and that sounds better for our ears. And the difference is cultural. Different countries have different standards, but in America you need to be able to project to get the mic to get your voice through the mic. I really need to fix this. All right, you need to get some training. Voice and singing lessons, it's great. Voice lessons at any college, most colleges that have a theater department also have a vocal production for the stage. Take that, even if you don't want to be an actor. Take it. It'll be good for you in your career in the long run. If you sing, take singing lessons. Just make sure that whoever's teaching you how to sing isn't making you belt all the time, because that's really hard on your voice. That shows you how to do. For ladies, you want to be able to learn how to sing in the mix. That's the most important thing. For guys, you just don't want to strain your voice. All right. We only have 2 voices. Ladies, you have 3. Once again, you're superior. Okay. Vocal production for theater I just talked about. Speech classes. Take a speech class in college. Learn how to give a speech. Speech and debate. It's a great place to learn because you have to get up in front of people. You have to convince them, which means you have to be personable. You have to get outside yourself. And also you have to be able to speak clearly in order to succeed. So that's a pretty good place to go. Local choirs. If you go to a church or synagogue, whatever, and they have a choir, join that. It's good for you. It gets you performing. Remember you said you have to get used to performing. And also singing on a daily basis or weekly basis is very good for your voice as long as you're not straining it. Voice acting workshops we already talked about. Trying to get to the fun part here. Okay, come on, there we go. That's the next thing. You got to learn to be fearless. Fearlessness is important. A lot of people, I have friends and new actors that work with me in my workshops who are wonderful actors. They really have what it takes to become an actor, but the nerves, it's the fear, this fear of whatever that keeps them from, so they get in the booth and they kind of fall apart a little bit. Or they trying too hard, which is the other thing. You try too hard, it doesn't come off right either. So you got to learn to be a little fearless. Get up in front of people. The best thing to learn how to do that, and this is where everybody usually groans, is take an improv class. Okay? Oh, no groaning. That was nice. Okay, thank you. No, the reason that people groan is because people go, "Oh, I'm not funny." Well, in an improv situation, I'm not that funny either. But the reason to take improv is to learn how to kind of get quick on your feet. It teaches you to turn your brain off and to just react. And that's an important part of acting, learning how to just react and not plan it too much. And also it helps you when you get in situations like this right here, where you have to be in front of a bunch of people. And this comes up in everybody's life. Even if you're not an actor, there's oftentimes you have to address people. And if you learn to be a little fearless and understand what the fear is, that will help you out. And what the fearlessness is about, the fear is about the fear of judgment. You're afraid, oh, they're going to think I suck. They're going to think I'm stupid. They're going to think But you know what? The person who's doing all that judging is you. You're your worst judge, okay? Which is a cool thing because that's something you can do something about. So instead of worrying about how people are going to perceive you, one of the things to do is just worry about going out and having fun. You come up and just have some fun, all right? There are people at these cons that I see in these elaborate cosplay that I can tell when talking to them, these are not people that would normally get up in front of people. They're pretty shy, they're pretty reserved, they're into their thing. And when they put the costume on, they get fearless, and that's why they succeed. And it's the same thing you got to do. One of the things that I learned how to do was to create a character that was me. When I first went to my very first convention back in it was a Robotech convention, and I'd never been to one before. I never even knew that there were anything. I knew there were Star Trek conventions, but that was it. And mine was, by the way, a Star Trek Robotech convention, which was cool because I'm a Trekkie, and I got to meet some Star Trek guys. But I walked in, I expected 20 kids with questions. So I walked in there, and there were 500 screaming fans going completely apeshit. And I froze, because I'd been in front of large audiences before as an actor, but I always had a script. I always had a character to play. I could lean on that. I didn't have to worry about it. Well, now I'm having to be myself. And it was a tough panel. Let me tell you, I had a really tough time. So I swore that would never happen again. And what I did is I ended up creating a character that I could play when I was in those situations. And that character was me. But it gave me just enough separation from myself that I didn't have to worry about the fear, and I could just present, and that's how I got through it. That's also how I learned how to get through auditions when I first got started. I don't have to do that anymore because I've been doing this a long time. But that's a great approach when you're dealing with auditions, and also when you're having to be up in front of people. Just play a character that is you. You know the character. You know how to play it because you do it every day. And separate yourself from that fear a little bit. That fear is never going to completely go away, by the way. But you can learn how to mitigate it by just separating yourself a little bit and just playing a character and having a persona. And if you've ever met other celebrities like from film and screen like that, they have these great screen personas. But when you meet them, by and large, they're normal people. They really don't have that. It's just a persona that they play to get them through the day. There are a few. What? Well, Alec Baldwin is a persona all by himself. So. I know, if I ever have to work with him, I'm going to be like afraid and sitting in the corner going, oh, please don't yell at me. So let's talk about breaking into the business. This is the biggest question I get. How do I get into voice acting? Okay, well, I've told you most of the steps you have to take. Yes? Hi. Okay. You know, how do I get into voice acting? And the thing to get into voice acting is it's not easy. It's a tough business to get into, but there are some things that you can do. First of all, look for opportunities in your own community. Don't pack up and move to Texas or Los Angeles right off the bat. You need to get a little training. And one of the ways is looking for opportunities to voice act right here in your community. And a lot of ways to do that is there's small radio stations and television stations all over every small town, well, not every small town, but most small cities, and those stations need people to do commercials, because otherwise it's the same four guys. So we're going to look for opportunities to do that. Every place where there's a radio or a television station, there's an ad agency. They're also looking for commercials, people to do commercial reads and stuff like that. It's a little different than the kind of voice acting than what I'm talking about doing here, but it's a great chance to get involved and get in. Also, you can probably get a local agent if you start doing that stuff. And the reason is the local agent isn't going to make you rich or get you all that stuff, but once you've had an agent, it's easier to get another agent. So if you decide to make the jump ever to Texas to do anime there, because it's the only other place other than Los Angeles where they really do anime on a regular basis, then it'll be easier for you to transfer and get an agent when you get there. And agents are helpful to find you jobs. Go to online VA communities. There's the Voice Actors Alliance and the Voice Actors Club are the two that I know of. They're both online. Great communities, online communities. They do little productions. They do fanfic type stuff. It's a great place to kind of to network with other people who are interested in that, and not to mention the fact that you need some cool people on those. Local radio stations I just talked about, local ad agencies. Volunteer reading, this is my favorite. Go volunteer to read to kids at the library. Read to the blind. It gets you reading, it gets you to play all the parts when you're reading it, and not only that, you're doing something really nice for somebody. And I'm a big believer in karma. You throw out nice, you get back nice, okay? So I really encourage people to do that, not to mention the fact I've done it. It's very fulfilling, particularly when you're reading to people who really don't have that kind of opportunity to hear stuff read. Ultimately, you have to go to where the work is. So if you want to stay in commercials and stuff like that, you can work just about anywhere. The biggest commercial center closest to this area is Chicago. So that's where a lot of Midwestern commercials are done. The Midwest, Chicago, commercials are done for the Midwest in Chicago and Dallas. For the coast, it's Los Angeles and New York. If what you want to do is get into anime, there's two places you can go. Unless you're Canadian, there's two places you can go. And that's Los Angeles and Dallas. And I generally recommend people to go to Dallas first. It's cheaper to live by a lot. The rates aren't as good, but the talent pool is much smaller, so they're always looking for new people to replenish. And Funimation right now is just cranking out shows one after another. And not only that, Sentai Filmworks is starting to produce in town now, down in Houston as well. So that's a good place. And Los Angeles is the other place. They have a little bit of New York, but in New York they pay Dallas wages and they have expenses that are higher than Los Angeles. So might as well go to one of those two. For video games is Los Angeles, a little bit in New York, a little bit in Seattle, a little bit in San Francisco, a little bit in Miami, a little bit in Baltimore, and a little bit in Dallas. Mostly it's LA. Okay? Well, unless you're Canadian. If you're Canadian, then for anime, it's Ocean Studios down in Vancouver. That's the place to go. And for other kinds of productions, there's also anime production going on in Toronto. Montreal, they do mostly mixing and post-production there. Or French language. Yeah. Well, where the video game studios are and where they're recorded are not necessarily the same thing. Most of the video games that I direct for are made in Japan. They're re-edited down in the southernmost part of California, and then they ship it up here. I've actually done stuff that was written in Italy, edited in England, recorded in America, and mixed in Canada. So it's kind of one of those businesses, yeah. But if you want to do, the holy grail, of course, for all voice actors is mainstream cartoons, the Disney stuff. Why? Because it pays really well. Okay? And also because it's cool. We record it differently. Anime, you're recording one person in the booth at a time. And we record them one line at a time. When you do American cartoons, or what we call prelay, we actually pre-record the dialogue first and they animate to us. That's almost always done in a group. So you're actually working with other actors. It's like doing a play reading. It's a lot of fun, and once again, it pays. You can actually make a living with that without having to work too hard. Demos. Ultimately, you're going to need a demo. Demos are an interesting thing. They're a very, very expensive business card. A demo will not get you a job. A demo will help you get an agent, and it's just a demonstration of what your voice is. And what a demo should be is about a minute for 5, 6, 7 different characters that sounds sufficiently different enough that people go, ooh, they're versatile, and that's what you want them to do. A demo will cost you a lot of money. If you go to Craigslist and someone says, I can do a demo for $100, run. Because it needs to sound like, we're going to spend that kind of money, it needs to sound like it's professionally done. Or casting directors will think you don't care, and they won't pay attention to it. So in Los Angeles, a good demo is going to run you $1,500 to $1,800. And you need at least 2. You need one for characters and one for commercials. So that's something you want to address down the line. My suggestion to people is, well, I'm going to get a demo and get into it. Get all your training done first. Be really sure what you got before you spend that kind of money. Because you're going to have to spend it again a year later. And you're going to have to spend it again 2 years later. If you don't, you want to have to spend it once. Okay? So get your training done first. Auditioning. All right, I'll go through this very quickly. Auditioning is, I actually teach auditioning now in part of my advanced classes, and because when I used to look at how these things are marketed, the classes I would see is surviving auditions, audition hell, how to get through it, how to not shoot yourself out after an audition. I mean, stuff like that. And since as an actor, what you do mostly, I mean, you're basically a permanent temp. You're basically looking for a job every moment of the time. Mostly what you do when you're an actor is you audition. And when you audition, you have to audition enough to get a part. I mean, and what I mean by that is out of every 100 auditions, you're maybe going to be called back for 10. And out of those 10, maybe you'll land one part. I mean, it's that kind of, so you have to, you're auditioning an awful lot. So the way to, first of all, the way to approach auditions is to have fun. And I tell my students this because they'll pay a bunch of money to come in and spend a weekend with me in a studio where they get to be on one of these really nice mics and they get to play with characters. Well, auditions, it's a chance to get up on a mic and play for free. So you go in for 10 or 15 minutes, you create a character, you go do your thing, you enjoy yourself, you have a lot of fun, and the more fun you have, the more fun the casting people have. And the more fun the casting people have for you, the more likely they are to call you in. So you go and you spend your time, 15 minutes, whatever you get on the microphone, get yourself auditioned, get yourself done, leave and forget about it, because you're not going to get the part. But every so often, you get that phone call. And now they'll ask you to come back and actually give you money. It's amazing. I have a list of weird shit I've been paid to do on mic, and it's really, yeah. The weirdest one was Power Rangers. Yeah. That's how we did the Putty Patrol. But there are some things that you can do. Yeah, I have a weird life. There's some things that you can do. First of all, be prepared. Walk in, make sure you're warmed up, prepare, research as much of the character as you can if you can. With video games, it's really hard, but for the other things and stuff. Walk in with a positive attitude. Don't walk in apologizing. Hi, I'm sorry, I'm going to audition. That's not going to get you anywhere. Positive attitude. Hi, I'm having a great day. How you doing? Go say hello to people. Be professional. Dress well. You don't want to dress suit. You don't want to overdress, but you don't want to be dressed like in jammies and flip-flops either. Which brings me to a story that I'm going to tell you really quickly before I get us to the fun part here, and that is Leprechaun Man. Leprechaun Man. Yes, we were auditioning people to dub a Chinese film into English. And we couldn't find anyone in our normal talent pool, so we opened it up on a website called Actors Access, which is, become a professional actor. It's something you should be a part of. It doesn't cost anything. And so we had regular, people that we hadn't seen before. So it was the day after St. Patrick's Day, and the intern comes walking in looking very sheepish, and it was Christine Marie Cabanos, by the way. She's now doing quite well in the voice acting world, but at the time she was interning, and she comes in with her little tiny voice going, your first person's here. So I walk out to the lobby, and here's this man dressed in full leprechaun garb. The green jacket, the hat with the flower, the shillelagh, the whole bit. Okay. So he walks in and says, oh, you gotta understand, in my house, St. Patrick's Day is like a 3-day event. So he just pretty much told me he probably just came from the bar, straight from the bar. He says, and then he says, well, I didn't get a chance, because of that, I didn't get a chance to go over the copy you sent me, so, but I can come up with stuff, you know, in the booth quickly. So now he told me he didn't care enough about my project to spend even 10 minutes looking at the stuff before he came in. So it's okay, I give everyone a chance. So we walked in the booth, I'm explaining what he's doing, and he says, you know, this jacket's a little tight, do you mind if I take it off? Well, knock yourself out, you know? So we got him set up, I start recording him, and I don't look at him. He's actually over here to my left, there's a window here. And the engineer's to my right, and I don't like to watch people when they voice act. I need to hear what they sound like. So, and it turns out he couldn't come up with stuff quickly. He wasn't very good at all. But then I turn over to Ricky, my engineer, and he's looking with eyes this big and mouth agape. So I look around, well, Leprechaun Man has now removed his shirt. So he's topless in my studio, with big barrel chest and red shocks of hair everywhere. It's like, oh, okay, now you're freaking me out. If he takes his pants off, I'm leaving. So we finished him up, and I got him the heck out of there. And about an hour later, one of the other production assistants comes knocking and says, "Can you talk to him?" I said, "Why?" He said, "He's still here." He hung out. He was like hanging out. And in back, they had to finally escort him out the door. So the thing is that whenever you go audition, just make sure, don't be a Leprechaun Man, okay? All right. The biggest thing is to have fun. Just always have fun. All right, am I done with this? Yes, we'll talk about that in a minute. All right, so what I want to do now. All right, I have some scripts here from various different shows, and I want to get a couple people to come up, and I want you guys to kind of give it a try, give you a little bit of direction. So first, I need a guy and a girl. All right, you and you. Don't worry, I won't forget you guys are back. All right, so this is a script. These are real scripts, by the way. These are actual scripts from the shows. What they look like. You take that one. Come on over here. Take that one, and I'm going to hand the mic here. You grab that one. There you go. And you want to be right here with the microphone so people can hear you. Okay, this is a script from Sword Art Online. It's Kirito and Asuna, and this is they're sitting on a park bench. I'm trying to remember the scene. They're sitting on a park bench talking about Kirito seems to be very food oriented in these episodes, and Asuna made the food, and he's just freaked out about that. So, Kirito, young guy, this all takes place, I don't know, you familiar with Sword Art? Okay.
Yeah, I just started watching it a week ago.
Sweet, so they're all inside a video game, and Kirito's this young hero, and Asuna is a very intimidating woman. Alright, so let's just go ahead and read it from the top and see what happens. So, in 3, 2, 1.
Gotta hand it to you, for a second in command of the Knights of the Blood of, you rock. Where'd you buy these anyway?
I didn't. I made it. They didn't come from a store. Yes, I can cook, so what?
Wow, I don't even know what to say. I mean, if you're looking for a second career, you'd make a killing selling these.
And he drops the sandwich.
Oh. Should have been eating instead of talking.
Okay, cool. So that's really nice. All right, so here's what I want to do. First of all, put that mic a little closer so everybody can hear you. So, Kirito, I like where you're going, but make him a little more, he's really intimidated by her. So a little nervous, he kind of likes her, but kind of afraid of her, and all this stuff. So he doesn't know quite what to say, and he's like totally into this food. You are the ice queen, you know? All right, she's pretty intimidating, so I want you to kind of be, without yelling, be in his face about all of this, okay?
Okay.
All right, here we go, one more time. In 3, 2, 1.
I gotta hand it to you for second in command of the Knights of the Blood of, you rock. Where'd you buy these anyway?
I didn't. I made it. They didn't come from a store. Yes, I can cook, so what?
Wow, I don't even know what to say. I mean, if you're looking for a second career, you'd make a killing selling these.
Should have been eating instead of talking.
All right, that's good. Just a little adjustment. It's everything. That's fantastic. Thank you. So you can see that just a little bit of of thinking differently makes a big difference. And so that's what I'm going to give you directions. I'm going to ask you to think. So I need 2 ladies. All right. The orange ears hat. There you go. Come on up and. So that you, yes. All right. So each grab a mic. So we're gonna. This is from Phase 0. Okay. It's a scene between Saber and Irisfield. So I'm gonna have you play Irisfield, and you play Saber. I probably won't let you do this. All right. So Saber is a heroic spirit summoned for the purposes of fighting a Grail war, and Saber in her original life was King Arthur. So in this universe, King Arthur was a woman pretending to be a man, which by the way makes the whole Guinevere Lancelot thing makes so much more sense when you look at it. So she's strong, she's heroic, she's all about chivalry, and she carries Excalibur, so she's pretty dangerous, all right? But she's all about honor. Irisfield is a homunculus. She was created for the purposes of the Grail War, and she's very sweet and positive and nice. And is very soft-spoken and always and is very much in awe of Saber, but yet also is directing her on what to do. So she's that kind of person. Okay. So let's give it a shot. From the top in 3. Oh, hang on a second. Oh, and what's going on here is that Saber was just summoned, and she did not get a great response from Kiritsugu, who is Irisfield's husband and the actual master of all this. And so she's a little bit, so she thought he was kind of a cold son of a bitch. But now she sees him, she's out looking out, and he's playing with his daughter and being very sweet and warm, so it's confusing you. And you just think everything Kiritsugu does is great. So, okay? All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1.
I was under the impression that my master had a colder heart than he's showing right now.
Well, I can see how you might think that.
If that really is Kiritsugi's true self,
then I'm afraid I must gravely offend him when we first met.
That was actually Saber's line.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Keep going.
Isabel, you really don't have to laugh at me.
I'm sorry. I was wondering if you were still concerned with our reaction when you were summoned.
Yes, somewhat. True, I did pretend to be a man during my original life, but surely there was no need for you to be so shocked when you saw me.
I'm sorry, but we just couldn't help it. Your legend, King Arthur's legend, is extremely famous.
Well, if that's the case, do you think he might underestimate my ability simply because I am a woman?
Okay, we'll stop there. All right, cool. So here's what I want you to do. For you, she's very sweet. So literally, physically, put a smile on your face when you're talking. And she giggles, she's sweet, she's good-natured. She just put a nice, really sweet smile on your face and talk very softly. Not quietly, softly. It's the difference. With you, put yourself in a nice, positive stance. And add a little, this is a weird direction, add a little testosterone to your, okay? So she speaks very commandingly and very slowly, and she's a very powerful woman, okay? So, but a powerful woman who's unsure of herself, so that's why there's that little, I'm not quite sure what's going on here, okay? So let's try that again, one more time, in 3, 2, 1.
I was under the impression that my master had a colder heart than he's showing right now.
Well, I can see how you might think that.
If that really is Kiritsugu's true self, then I am afraid I must have gravely offended him when we first met. Isabel, you don't have to laugh at me.
I'm sorry. I was wondering if you are still concerned with our reaction when you were summoned.
Yes, somewhat. True, I did pretend to be a man during my original life, but surely there was no need for you to be so shocked when you saw me.
I'm so sorry, but we just couldn't help it. Your legend, King Arthur's legend, is extremely famous.
Well, If that's the case, do you think he might underestimate my ability simply because I am a woman?
All right, cool. Give him a big hand. Thanks. The fact of the matter is, the more wordy these things. By the way, if you haven't seen Fate Zero, it's the best show I've ever worked on. But you got to get through the first 5 episodes because they just talk. But they set up the whole show, and that's why they do that. But the more wordy it is, the more difficult it is to do. So let's get something a little bit different here. All right, I need 3 guys. Okay, so yellow shirt there, beard over here, and you right here. What's your name? Mike? Tony? Hunter. Great names. Thank you. All right. All right. So you play Yosuke, you play Kanji, and you play you. This is for Persona 4. Grab mics. You guys are gonna have to share a little bit. All right. So. This is a case where the 3 guys are on a camping trip, and there's been some discussion because Kanji, who's a big, deep-voiced guy, by the way, when he in the show, talked about really liking cute things. So there's some question about his sexuality suddenly has come up, and so Kanji's getting ticked because the implications of being Yosuke's trying to be kind of you know, cool about it, but he's nervous about the whole thing. He's afraid that Kanji's going to do something. And Yu is just trying to stay the hell out of it. Okay? All right? So let's get started from the top of this in 3, 2, 1.
I mean, I'm not judging or anything. It's cool. But since you're sharing a tent and all...
No. There are some things I don't wish to experience.
What? I have had about enough crap out of you guys for that. Let it go already.
Then why are you so touchy about it?
Too much protesting is suspicious.
Then stop grilling me about it. And besides, no one would want your ugly faces.
Hey, they say all good friendships are based on honesty, right?
I'm confident enough with manhood for this.
Come on. I like cute things, so what?
Just setting boundaries.
Alright, so here we go. Here's what we're going to do. So I want you to keep even a little bit, hey, you know, I'm cool, you know, you want, just let me know. So I, you know, don't cross my legs or something. I don't know. You keep doing what you're doing. You don't need to be so loud. Just keep it pulled and pissed, alright? And you is kind of like, okay, dude. So he's a little bit more subdued, okay? Yeah, I don't really want to do this. He's just trying to not get into this conversation if he can avoid it. All right, so let's try it one more time. In 3, 2, 1.
I mean, I'm not judging anything. It's cool. But since you're sharing a tent and all...
No. There are some things I don't wish to experience.
What? I have had about enough crap out of you guys for that. Let it go already.
Why are you so touchy about it?
Too much protesting is suspicious.
Then stop grilling me about it. And besides, no one would want your ugly faces.
Hey, they say all good friendships are based on honesty, right?
I'm confident enough in manhood for this.
Come on, I like cute things, so what?
Just setting boundaries.
All right, good. Thanks a lot. That was great. I don't want to get sued. All right, let's try a different show here. I need a lady and a guy. So let's in the back. A white coat is guy, and you are lady. Oh, you. With the hat thing? Yeah. You're looking around. You just look backwards. Yes, you. Oh, I'm sorry. You were sitting. I couldn't tell with the hair. I'm so sorry. Sit down. I'm such a jerk.
You're looking forward to this, dude.
I'll get you in the next one. Come on. Yeah, I just stuck my foot in it really good. So this is. So grab a mic. So this is from Nura, Rise of the Yokai Clan. And what's your names?
Kaylee.
Jordan. Okay, Kaylee, you're playing Yura. And Yura is an onmyoji. And what an onmyoji is a human who has been sworn to kill yokai, which are these kind of mischievous creature-like people. And you're playing Nurari Hyun. And Nurari Hyun just so happens to be the head of all yokai. Okay? But she doesn't know this, and she just saved you from an attack. Actually, just saved your life. And she's all freaked out because she didn't do it well enough. So that's why she's feeling hopeless and weak, and not realizing that the very person she saved and who's giving her compliments is the very person that you've been sworn to kill. Okay? All right, so here we go. In 3, 2, 1.
I let another yokai escape. It's all because I'm so weak and hopeless. I'm just no good as an Amiyaji.
That's not true. You saved me. Without your kind of, I would have most certainly died.
Really? You really do feel that way? You're sure you're not hurt? You're not sick or anything? I'm so glad. I'm glad that I was able to protect a very good man like you.
All right, cool. So, actually, I want you to just be louder. Okay? Especially that last, that was good. I like that. Believe me or not, the hardest thing I have in the studio with new actors is getting them to do reactions. So instead of them going, ugh, when they get hurt, I get, ugh. So it doesn't work. All right, it's a good reaction there. She's really insecure. So she's like, oh my God, I can't believe she's a little over the top. So be a little more over the top. Okay? Here we go, one more time. In 3, 2, 1.
I let another yokai escape. It's all because I'm so weak and hopeless. I'm just no good as an Amiyaji.
That's not true. You saved me. Without your kind help, I would have most certainly died.
Really? You really do feel that way? You're sure you're not hurt? You're not sick or anything? I'm so glad. I'm glad that I was able to protect a very good man like you.
All right, excellent. Great job. That was really good. All right, so I've just got a few minutes left, so I want to take any questions you might have. Anybody got questions? Yes. Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, I know this sounds weird, but work out in the morning before you go. That helps get rid of some of the chemicals that causes that from happening. The other thing is to get yourself in a happy place before you walk in. Meditation in the car works, before you go. If you're a person of faith, pray. That works too. Anything that kind of centers you and focuses you. The other thing is to just focus. Rather than focus on the fact you're at an audition, if you don't work on stage, okay, when you're on a stage, you block out the audience. They don't exist, right? Unless you're doing a show that you have to talk to the audience. You do the same thing in the booth. You focus so totally on the character and the words, you block everything else out, and that's all you're focused on. And that helps. Mostly it's practice, just doing it as many times as you can and getting rejected as often as you can. Rejection is a very good thing, actually, in show business because it teaches you what you need to learn. Because it's not really rejection, it's just you're just not right for the part today. Okay? But that's one of the best things to do. Mostly center yourself, and that's going to be best. More questions? Yes. I'll go here. Yeah, people that can do, the thing that's interesting enough, because American cartoon directors are having trouble with this, because everybody's always been doing, wow, so really loud. They've always been doing very cartoony voices, and now they're looking for people that can do a slightly enhanced regular guy. And that's really the hard part, and that's why I suggest people get to acting before they do anything else. But no, there's somebody that can do just about anything. So, you got a question? Yes.
Yes, especially for American cartoons like Disney in particular, do you think because celebrity or very professional actors, movie actors in particular, are kind of taking some of the spots away from voice actors? Is this like a very negative trend that's kind of freaking you guys out in the voice acting community? celebrity, or do you?
Yes, damn them. No, I think I went the wrong way. Maybe I should go this way. Hello? That's it. Good. Thank you. Yes, I'm professional. No, yeah, it is an issue for us, and it's just the trend. And the thing I never understood about it is that the kids who are marketing the films to don't really care who the voice actor is. However, and I used to be very adamant about that until I directed a dub of a feature that I produced. It was a live-action movie called Rusty the Great Rescue. It's a great little kids film. It's on YouTube. You can find it. And I recorded it with the regular voice actors, and then Fox Home Video said, no, we need celebrities. Why? I don't know. It was a $2 million movie. So I had to go and recast the whole thing, and had Suzanne Summers and Patrick Duffy and all these big celebrities come in. And I gotta tell you, many of them did bring something a little special to those roles. Something that it was a thing I wasn't expecting, because I was very kind of like, no, we gotta do this. You know, Suzanne Summers really did bring something a little extra. So, insofar as if they can do it, and there are some great, you know, my hero right now is Bill Hader. He was in Saturday Night Live, but he's in every major cartoon you see, and you can't tell. He is such a good voice actor. Insofar as that they're good at it, I'm all for it, because then they deserve the part. But if they just bring in somebody, I remember watching Princess Mononoke, which I never liked the dub of that. And there's Matt Damon in there, and he sounds like he's asleep, because he's not a voice actor. He's acting with his face instead of with his voice, and it just doesn't work. So if they're just bringing them in for that, then I'm upset about it. But frankly, there's so many more roles in those shows that a lot of the really good, those are filled with real voice actors. So, you know, Kari Wahlgren, you familiar with her? She's wonderful. She plays Saber in Fate Zero, but she's also in Bolt and Kung Fu Panda and all that stuff. She's not a main character, but she's all over the place. I actually did a small bit on Hoodwink 2. You can hear me going, it's Shark Week! You know, it's really strange. That's my life. So, what time is it? Are we okay? Oh yes, more questions. Yes, in the back.
So how do you keep consistent through a character while you're doing a series? Because I know you kind of film like 2 or 3 at once, and then you go in, you might, like 2 or 3 months later, they need your character again. How do you remember that place in your voice where the character is?
There's a couple of ways we do it. Number one, those of us who've been doing it a long time, I only have so many voices, so it's going to be one of those 12, you know? Also, they'll play a vocal reference to us ahead of time before we get started, because they not only do I have to match what I did in the placement and all that stuff, but they also have to match EQ and all the technical stuff. So we go over that. They'll actually play me a line and I'll repeat it, and play me a line, and that's how we find it. It's not that difficult, except for when I first started doing Bleach, when I started doing Mukiura. Back up there. Nice cosplay. It was months between sessions, and they changed directors on me, and I didn't have a vocal reference. So that took a while I knew he was down here somewhere, but I needed to find him. So that's how we do it. And they do give us a guide. We're not on our own. More questions? Yes.
What's your favorite character that you or do you have?
I have like 3. Rick Hunter was my favorite. I mean, because it was my first. It was the first series I ever did. It really was. Looking back on it now, many years later, it was the role that kind of set me on the path that gave me an actual career I could make a living at. The second one was Harry von Gungrave, because it was the first villain I ever played. It was really a hard part. It was really challenging, because I had to be a gangster who would murder people and yet be likable enough that the audience would follow. And that's kind of walking a razor's edge. It was really hard to do, which made it really fun. And the other one would have to be Lupin. It's the first real comedy I ever played a lead in. And plus, I like doing the Lupin voice. It's just a lot of fun. You know, so, and we all became great friends. And working with Richard, his director, was fantastic. So it was those 3. But there'll be more somewhere. Yes. What's changed since then? Well, first of all, so many more of the actors that are coming into the business grew up with anime. We didn't, anime? They called it Japanimation back then when I first started. Yeah, you know how well people like that. on the technical side, well, we were analog, so we were chasing film. So we would work with a 3/4-inch videotape and record the reel-to-reel tape, which means that if you didn't get the line right, you had to do it again, over again until you got it right. So maybe, I was pretty fast in the day, so I could maybe get between 18 and 20 lines an hour recorded, and that was considered pretty fast. Now with the technical stuff that's different with digital video and digital audio, we're not chasing tape, we don't have to, if we get the line close enough, we can use some technology to kind of nuzzle it into place. Now we can get 40 to 60 lines an hour done, so it's almost twice as fast, which is better. It sounds like it's harder work for the actor, but it's actually better for the actor because you can get into a rhythm and a flow and actually maintain a character throughout a session instead of having to go back. But the better thing is, it's just the actors are better trained, because now everybody knows anime. Yuri Lowenthal was a big anime geek growing up. So when he came in to do the stuff, he knew exactly what we're talking about. Crispin Freeman is an anime expert before he ever became an actor. You know, so a lot of fans have grown up in the business, and that makes it easier, and it gives, I think, a much higher quality of performance. And the last thing is, the quality of anime has increased. What the Japanese are doing is much more complex storylines, much better animation, much better sound effects and stuff like that, so we don't have to fix it. So we can just do it purely, which I think is more fun. A couple more questions. Yes? Oh, you mean to be an actor? Yes, pretty much every day. No, it's true. I mean, most of the discouragement I've gotten was from family. Interestingly enough, you know, I had they care about you. They want you to have a good life. You know, and the perception of show business is that you're going to spend your time broke, and you're going to become a drug addict at some point. You know, and both may be true, but not necessarily. You know. No, it's auditions. Sometimes you don't get a part that you really thought you were right for. Or you didn't make enough money this month, so you're having trouble making your rent and that sort of thing, so you should always have another job or another way to make a living. Mostly discouragement that most people feel comes from themselves, because they have these expectations that it's going to be easy, and it's not. Overnight success is 5 to 10 years. So you got to keep at it. This is something, look, if you can do anything else in your life and that fulfills you and makes you happy and puts food on your table, do that. If you want to do this for a living, you have to eat it, breathe it, and love it so much that it's the only thing that makes you happy. And I was fortunate enough to be able to make a career out of it. But that's where most of the discouragement. I was pitching a show, I was working at Saban as a producer at the time, and I was pitching a show at the time, and my uncle went, "Well, you're never going to do that." I said, "Why?" It's 100,000 people have shows, they're pitching every day, you're never going to get anything on the air, you're never going to get anything on the... And my attitude at that point had been at it long enough, I went, "Oh yeah? Watch me." Next year, we premiered Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Okay? So it's all on the... I didn't pitch Power Rangers. I had another show that they didn't buy, by the way. It's all about keeping your eye on the ball and doing what you love, whether you get paid for it or not. I told my kids, do what you love, the money will come eventually. Both of them are. My son is now in Atlanta shooting Fast and Furious. He's on the tech side of things. And my daughter is a musical comedy actress who owns her own theater company. So they followed their heart. Okay? She's still struggling as an actress, by the way. But she's at least got that going. So one day she may or may not make it, but at least she's following her heart. Okay? It's more important to be happy than rich, I think. Any more questions? One more. Yes?
Do you find that like the really successful voice actors are the ones that try to just duplicate what the Japanese voice actors do, or are the really successful ones the ones that do their own thing and it ends up being the perfect thing for the character?
Both. You have to be able to do both. Because it depends on because part of it, you're making a living. You have to do what the client wants you. They're paying you for a service. So you have to be able to do both. But every so often they come and see what you bring to the table. So you have to be able to step up. The most successful voice actors that I know are the ones that work at it constantly. They never stop training, they never stop learning, and they don't just do anime. They'll do anime, they'll do video games, they have commercial agents, they try to do, even though they don't necessarily succeed at it, but they're doing a little bit of everything. Every time I climb on a stage and do a play or a music, I do musicals, I sing. So every time I do that, when I come back to the voice booth, I'm a better actor. I did 2-week run of cabaret in San Francisco at the beginning of this year. It was great, I've never done a show out of LA. And when I got back, I had to do some very heavy work for Naruto, with Minato and saying goodbye and all the death stuff like that. It came out so much easier because I had spent 2 weeks, actually 3 months, because there's the rehearsal period too, doing theater. So every time, so the people that I know that do the best are the ones that do a lot of different things. Okay? Do I have time? Oh, I guess I don't. So thank you very much, everybody. I really appreciate it. I have a panel here tonight on Power Rangers. I have footage, audition footage. So you can see what auditions were on Power Rangers. I have that footage.